Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a really profound idea from Sri Aurobindo's incredible work, The Synthesis of Yoga. It's a vision for a spiritual path that doesn't tell us to run away from the world. Instead, it asks us to transform it by starting with ourselves. So let's get into it.
You know, for centuries, this has been the big question for anyone on a spiritual path. Is the whole point to find some kind of peace by just checking out of the messiness of life? Or is there a way to find the divine right here, in the middle of all of it? This is the exact tension that Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga is all about resolving.
So you've basically got two options here. On one side, you have the traditional path, the path of rejection. This view basically says that life on earth is a trap, a heavy burden you need to escape to find some silent, blissful state beyond it all. But then there's this other path, the path of transformation. And this one suggests something totally radical, that life itself is the whole point. It's the arena for divine work. The goal isn't to get away from the world, but to fill it, to infuse it with a higher consciousness.
And this really gets at a problem that's been around forever, this deep split between being spiritual and being material. For a long time, spirituality was seen as something for, saints and hermits. It left everyone else feeling like their daily lives were just this leaden and dolorous yoke, a life that felt so heavy and pointless that, escaping sounded like a pretty good idea.
Okay, so this is where Sri Aurobindo's vision really comes into play. The goal he lays out is nothing less than a total transformation of our entire being. He calls it an integral yoga. It's a path designed for an integrated life, one where every single part of us, our body, our mind, our spirit, all gets to play a part in a much bigger, divine purpose.
And listen to this, because it flips the old ideas on their head. The body isn't some obstacle or a cage we need to break out of. No way. In this view, perfecting our physical life, making our body a divine instrument, is the ultimate challenge. It's the final victory for the spirit here on earth. As the text suggests, a huge difficulty isn't a sign to run away. It's a sign that there's a huge victory to be won.
So what exactly is integral yoga? Well, the key word here is synthesis. It doesn't just focus on one thing, like meditation for the mind or hatha yoga for the body. It brings everything together. The central purpose, the whole point, is to completely transform our regular, kind of fragmented human life into this deep, wide, and unified divine way of being. And this synthesis works on three basic levels of who we are. It starts with our material life, our body, our vital energies. That's the foundation. You have to start there. Then it moves up to our mental life, which is the incredible tool we have for our own evolution. And finally, the aim is to realize our spiritual life, our highest, truest potential, which is waiting for us just beyond our everyday mind.
So, if that's the goal, total transformation, how in the world do we get there? Well, the whole practice really comes down to one single, powerful psychological key, a constant and total inner surrender. And this surrender isn't just a one-time thing. It unfolds in three stages. First, we start to consecrate all our actions as a kind of sacrifice, so even doing the dishes or answering an email becomes an offering. Second, we let go of being attached to the results, to the fruits of what we do. The only outcome we're looking for is that connection to the divine. And third, and this is the toughest one, is to dissolve that nagging sense of ego, that feeling that I am the one doing all this.
Now, it's super important to understand this. This is not about becoming passive or just sitting around doing nothing. Not at all. The goal is to change the very source of where our actions come from. We're trying to move from being pushed and pulled by all our little personal desires to acting from this powerful, clear impulse of a universal, divine will.
But wait, what part of us can even do this kind of surrender? It's definitely not our ego. The source material points to something called our psychic being. Think of it as our true deep soul, a little spark of the divine that's hidden inside us. The real work of this yoga is to bring that psychic being to the front, to let it take the driver's seat and dissolve the false soul of desire, which is really just the ego that's been running the show all this time.
Okay, so once this inner shift starts to happen, it kicks off a much bigger evolutionary process, an ascent of consciousness. It's really like climbing a ladder through all the different levels of our own nature and purifying each rung as we go up.
The journey has to start at the foundation. I mean, you can't build a divine life on a chaotic, messy base, right? So the very first step is purifying our physical nature, our body, and what yogic philosophy calls prana, that vital life force energy that keeps us going. Getting this foundation stable and pure sets the stage for everything else.
Next, we climb up to our mental nature. The text says something really interesting here, that our true human existence really only kicks in when we're no longer just slaves to our physical cravings and nervous reactions, but when we can live freely in our minds. That's when we start to become the thinker, the one who's in charge of the body, not the one being dragged around by it.
Now, yogic tradition gives us a kind of map of our inner mental world, which it says has 4 main parts. Think of it like your inner computer. You've got the chitta. That's like your hard drive, storing all your basic consciousness and memories. Then there's the manas, your sense mind, which is like your keyboard and mouse, taking in all the data from the world. The buddhi is the processor, the intelligence that sifts through it all and makes decisions. And finally, the ahankara is the user account, the ego idea that creates the sense of a separate I running the whole machine. In this yoga, all 4 of these parts have to be cleaned up and brought into alignment.
And then, beyond all that logic and reasoning, we reach the final peak of our ascent. This is a spiritual or supramental consciousness. It's described as a divine mind that doesn't have to figure things out step by step. It knows truth directly through a kind of intuitive vision, a direct seeing. This is the ultimate destination of our evolution.
So, what happens when this whole synthesis is actually achieved? What's the result of all this inner work? Well, the individual is basically remade from the inside out. You become a conscious instrument for a higher power. And here's the amazing part. You don't lose your individuality. You don't just dissolve into nothing. Instead, your perfected personality becomes this unique center for the universal consciousness to act through. It's like becoming a single, perfect wave that completely reflects the entire ocean. You're a conscious channel for the divine's work in the world.
And this brings us right back to where we started. The goal is not to escape, but to live in the divine, right here, right now, not separate from nature, not separate from other people, not separate from our everyday earthly life. Real liberation is found by embracing and transforming the world, not by running away from it.
So the whole journey really looks something like this. We start down here, in the fragmented state of the ego life. Through that process of inner surrender, we start to climb, integrating all the parts of our being. And the goal is that complete, totally unified state of a divine life, where every part of who we are is working in perfect harmony.
And this whole thing leaves us with a final, really powerful question. If just one person can go on this journey of transformation, what could it mean for all of us? What could human life on Earth actually look like if it was built not on ego and division, but on a unified divine consciousness? It's a vision for not just a new kind of human being, but a whole new world.